Hey, welcome back. So this is now, I guess, the fourth video in this series where I'm introducing LuckGrib relatively slowly. Uh, the overall intent is to kind of to work through this. So we'll go through some more of the basics, so we can get to some more fun stuff soon. And in this one, I want to go through a few more details behind downloading weather data. But I'll cover some of the basics of the principles behind downloading weather files, and that will be important for a future video where I talk about the offshore data system. So in this video, the main focus of this video will be studying downloads in a little more detail, with more detail to come in a future video. So this area of the is the GRIB download manager. This is where you where you initiate downloads of weather files. Once you have once you've downloaded a file for the first time, you can go and update that file by holding down the control button, clicking on the file, and selecting update. And the way this is working is that when you first select the new request, which is how you initiate a file download, after setting up all the parameters for some file and download it, the system creates this object in this list, which is the request object. And this object works like a cutter or a stamp to generate new files in the future. So if you had a request you had made previously, you can select it and ask to download it, and it'll download a new version of that request. So these requests are ways of encapsulating or packaging all of the information which you've described to the system for the file you want. So in this request, which was the first one we did in the first video, we chose the GFS file. We chose these parameters, and we selected a 1/4 of a degree resolution every 3 hours for 10 days with some region. Now you can go in and change any of these values. If you think that this is going too far east, you could have it go further to the west, and so on. If you wanted to add more parameters, you could go through and add rain. So now you've added a rain to this request, and if you wanted to change the model, you can do that here as well. Normally, I'll name the requests. So at the moment in this file list, we have 3 files. They're each called GFS, and there's a time, the forecast time is encoded in the file name as well. But it's more useful to have these things, to give these requests names so you can more easily go through your list and see what's what. So this first one was the North Pacific GFS request. So you can give it a file name, and it shows you an example of the file name here. And now if we go back to the list, we can see that this is the North Pacific file. So I'll go back to this one and give that a name of the Caribbean, just to make that more clear. Caribbean GFS. And it's also useful to, well, you have an option of giving files colors. So if you download more than one kind of file in the North Pacific, this file is really atmospheric. It contains wind, rain, and pressure. You may want to download a current file, like a file which contains the ocean currents, or a file which contains waves, and have those be separate. And you can adopt a color scheme. So maybe you color all of the atmospheric files as green. So now that's a green file. And you can color the wave files by, orange or whatever. So those are useful. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can open up the editor for a file and give it a color. So this is now a yellow file in the list. And the advantage of doing this for the GRIB request is that when you ask for a new file from this request object, it'll be colored whatever color you give it in this selection. So it's a bit subtle, but yeah, I encourage you to set the color if you are going to do that here. It's a bit more useful. If you're working in the same area, the best thing to do is to generate a request for that area and to update that forecast as you need it. And the advantage of doing that is that you can simply ask the system to update the file whenever you want, and the system will give you fresh data when it's available. So it just gave me fresh data, so I asked for a new version of this file, and it gave it to me, which means that this data is different than the previous data. If I ask for a new update again, the system is saying that there's no data available yet. So the advantage of this style of request is that you can, once you've created these request objects and they cover the area and the parameters you want, you can update them very frequently, which allows you to capture the time when the models change, which is useful. And if you ask for data when it hasn't changed yet, the system will tell you that nothing's changed yet. So that's really useful. So, and the other advantage you see with the making these request objects, or the advantage with the system having made them on your behalf, is that when you're at sea, what will happen is that you'll end up with a request for the weather around your vessel, which is suitable in its size and the parameters, and updating that for a new location will be quite simple, as we'll cover very soon. So I think with that, I'll leave it, and I think the next video will be offshore data, which is kind of fun for you sailors. So yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.